middle school, I met this guy online. I know, bad idea. I was stupid and going through depression with self-harm as well as suicidal thoughts. But I met him, and at first, he was so sweet and caring and made me feel like I had something to live for. When I was down, he made me feel better. When I wanted to hurt myself, he would stop me. I started noticing a few changes in his behavior after a week. If I didn't answer right away, he'd spam and go into a full rant about me. Even if I said I wouldn't be able to talk to him, he would just kind of spam. Again, he started wanting nudes and stuff that I wasn't fully comfortable with, and he kind of got controlling to the point I would have to miss a meal for him. He began to attack my appearance. I kind of initiated it myself by insulting me, so that wasn't fully his fault. I would feel self-conscious about my weight, and he would tell me to miss a meal or two. If I felt bad by seeing my scars, he would tell me it was my fault for them being there, which I kind of agreed with. When we had a bit of a disagreement on something, he would turn it around and attack me. He would call me all kinds of horrible things, worthless piece of shit, along with other profanities. About 4 weeks into the relationship, he started telling me to call him daddy. As a dumb kid, I never questioned it and thought I would do it to make him happy and hope it didn't start a fight later on. In the 4 weeks, he asked me if I would want a sister. I was a bit confused at this point. I forgot how old he told me he was, so I asked him. At first, he told me he was 29. I was 13 at a time, and he lied to be saying that he was around my age. I should have left, but I was curious as to what he meant by a sister. So I asked, and he basically said that he wanted to bring another girl into the relationship. I said no, and he did his usual thing, insulting me, belittling me, etc. So I finally built up the courage to break it off with him. He started threatening me. He told me he was gonna find me and sexually assault me and then hurt my family. I can't remember if it was around this time, but he also said he would find me, kidnap me, and do all those other things. Make me become pregnant and then sexually assault my child. I wish I was making that up. He then threatened to send the semi-sexy pics I sent him to people he knew, and possibly my family. He said he wouldn't do it if I sent him full nudes. Terrified, I did as he asked. He made fun of my body weight scars, stretch marks, and picked apart my body, pointing out all the bad parts. I told one of my friends and they told me to just block him because he wouldn't send them. So I did, and thankfully, he didn't. I swear, I lucked out on that one. Fast forward a year, and I get a request on Kik. He made a new account. My dumbass saw his name and tapped accept. I wanted to curse him out and give him shit for making me want to off myself more. But after accepting, he became apologetic. He became sweet again, and I kind of fell for his trick once more. The relationship started again, and it went down the same way as the first time. Loving and caring, clingy, insulting, attacking me, leaving him and getting death threats. I didn't send him anything this time. I blocked him again. I'm 17 now, and still get requests from him every year, except somehow he found my Instagram and Snapchat. My Instagram I understand, but my Snapchat has nothing to do with my name or anything. I've kind of gotten over my suicidal thoughts, no thanks to him, and I have stopped hurting myself, but I still belittle myself because of him, no matter how many times he tries to contact me. I won't take this again. I grew a backbone, and I'm not afraid to fight back if needed. I was riding around on my bike in winter, looking for places to explore. My hometown was a big industrial East Coast city, known for their brass manufacturing. In the southern portion of the city, there were lots of factories, and where there are factories, there are houses for the workers. Across the street from a brass works I had visited dozens of times, I noticed a house that was very vacant and obviously abandoned. It was 3 stories tall with asphalt siding shingles, colored in a deep red-brown beige colors that screamed 1970s. The first 2 floors had every window busted out, and even had this sash weight from the windows ripped out and scavenged for the scrap iron. But the 3rd floor, all the windows were intact. Intrigued, I made my way into the building. Very easy to do. Not only were there no windows, there were no back doors either. Only the front door remained. Walking through the building was not easy though, because the entire apartment was covered waist deep in garbage bags. Eventually, I made my way to the stairwell and got up to the 2nd floor. I was met with the same situation, the entire apartment filled with garbage. I worked my way up to the back porches where there are usually stairs connecting all 3 floors. This proved to be the case, and I wound my way to the 3rd floor porch. When I got up there, I tried the door and found that it was locked. But as soon as I looked away from the door, I saw that someone had taken a heavy-duty orange extension cord and grafted it to the power lines coming from the nearby telephone poles. The cord had obviously been there a while because the part of the cord that was exposed to the sun had bleached a pale yellow. The rest of the dingy orange cord went into the house through a hole drilled in the wall. So I thought to myself, okay, this place might have power. Interesting. Since I couldn't open the back door, I went back to the 2nd floor apartment and waded through the trash until I found the stairs to the 3rd floor in the front of the building. I followed the stairs up, and as I approached the door, I started to feel that something wasn't right. It was warm. Not just because I was out of the winter wind and in an enclosed space. It was full warm. It was physically warmer. I approached the door and turned the knob slowly with my gloved hand. I made no noise, but it turned completely. As I slowly pushed the door open as quietly as I could, I was hit with a blast of heat that fogged up my glasses. Inside the cracked open door, I could see that there was indeed power. As I opened the door the rest of the way, I found myself in a kitchen with eaten food on the table, used dishes, and a still smoking cigarette in a cup. There was a gas kitchen stove with all 4 burners on high. That explains the heat. I stood in the middle of the kitchen and looked around. Since it was an attic apartment, it was very small. The kitchen was no more than 10 by 10, and because of the staircase leading into it, the room was shaped like an L. There was a living room off the side that was darkened, a single bathroom, and to my left, towards the front of the house, was a single bedroom. It was there that I heard sounds, people talking. I stood still in the doorway, listening for a minute until I realized that I was hearing Judge Judy. I worked my way towards the bedroom and could see the television playing in the corner through the partly open doorway. It's 2013, and I am the freshman in college. I'm living on campus with one roommate in the girls' dorm, so everything is pretty chilled for the first semester. Typical college dorm things. Well, our room had actually not been used in a very long time, if ever. It was used as a showroom, but our freshman class was so big that they had to convert it into actual living space. The Wi-Fi didn't even work in there, so I spent many nights in the laundry room across the hall, scrambling to finish forgotten homework due at midnight. Anyway, we leave for Christmas break and come back in January of 2014. My roommate had gone there about 30 minutes before me and had left her stuff on the bed with the door locked while she went to say hey to some other girls down the hall. I got there, unlocked the door, and promptly discovered that someone had trashed our room. Her suitcases were flung everywhere, my drawers were open, our beds weren't made anymore, and even the ceiling tiles were moved out of place. One had even fallen down onto my bed. So I called my roommate and told her it's totally not cool to trash the room, and she is subsequently very confused. She comes back and is just as confused as I am, saying she had only been in the room to drop off her bags, and then she had left. Well, we asked the RA, and nobody could have possibly gone into our room, and blah blah blah. Okay, fine, whatever. As the semester goes on, things take a turn for the freaky. It started out with small things like noises in the middle of the night coming from different corners of the room. Well, it's a college dorm. There's bound to be noises, but from inside the room, strange but explainable. Then, about 2 weeks later, we're both dead asleep at about 2:01 a.m. The dorm is quiet. It's a Christian college, so there's lights out and a curfew. I'm startled awake by something being flung across the room. My roommate wakes up, wondering why I had chosen this particular time to throw crap around our room, so I promptly turned on the light. So just to give you a visual, our room was rectangular in shape. Our beds were arranged in an L shape. Her bed was parallel to the top portion of the room, so one side of her bed was against the wall. Our mini fridge was against the wall between our beds, and my bed was along the long wall. There was open space in the middle, and a built-in desk flanked on either side by small closets made more like shelves on the other long wall, and then the door at the very end of the long wall. Above my roommate's bed, there was a shelf, and on that shelf was a stuffed animal, a Febreze odor spray thing that ran on batteries that had been out since the first week of school, as the batteries are expensive, and a plastic cup with the school logo on it. Well, upon inspection, we discovered what was flung. It was the odor spray thing from the top shelf. Odd, since they had been there since the first week of school this semester and had never been knocked off. We assumed that it was some sort of air conditioning malfunction, even though nothing else ever moved, and there weren't any vents near the shelf. Logically, there would have had to have been some substantial force for that thing to fly across the room and land on the floor at my bed, a good 7 to 8 feet away. So, we go back to bed, but for the next couple of months this thing periodically flies off the shelf. I also noticed that during this time, my roommate started acting sort of strange. She was tired and moody and didn't seem like herself. One night I woke up with this awful feeling of dread. I noticed something moving out of the corner of my eye in the darkest corner of the room by the door. I turned my head to see a little better, thinking perhaps it was my roommate. It was not my roommate. It was like a shadow, but solid, hunched next to the door as if ready to pounce. It rocked back and forth on its feet a little, like a person trying to keep their balance, ready to spring. I kept my eyes on it and called out to my roommate. It stopped teetering when I spoke, but it was still there. It was watching me, and I could feel it. It took about 3 times of saying my roommate's name for her to respond. I think there's... I didn't really know how to explain what I was looking at. She sleeps facing the wall every night, so I knew she wasn't looking at the thing. Then she whispered, "Do you see it?" My blood ran cold. I assumed it was a trick of the light, but I had woken her for confirmation that I was just seeing things. Well, instead, she stayed facing the wall, refusing to roll over. I sucked it up and looked away from the thing hunched in the corner and turned my lamp on top of the mini fridge on. I looked back, and it was gone. My roommate finally sat up and turned to look at me. She proceeded to tell me that she had been seeing it most nights after I fell asleep since the first time this spray thing had been flung across the room. She generally stayed up a bit later than me, as she was a nursing major and had tons of homework to get done. I was normally asleep by 10 while I'm out. She had been seeing this thing for months and said nothing. After that incident, I had the idea to keep a small light on at night and used my laptop to film whatever was going on, specifically how the spray thing was getting flung across the room. Coincidentally, the night incident stopped. Any night we decided to film, however. There was one night my roommate woke me up from her bed, telling me that she could hear the spray thing scraping across the shelf, about to be flung. So I sat up and was messing with my phone, not facing her bed. She was standing at the desk, turning on the laptop to start filming, also not facing her bed. We both then hear a thud, look at each other, and then turn around to see the spray thing sitting positioned perfectly on her bed, with the light flashing on it, despite having no batteries. We calmed down, started the laptop, and went back to bed after putting the air thing back on the shelf, assuming all would be well since we were taping. We didn't wake up again that night. The next morning, I woke up to find my laptop in a different position than I had left it. We went back through the video and saw that over the span of 10 minutes, my laptop had been mysteriously rotated towards the wall, making our beds out of view. I then proceeded to go over to my boyfriend's at the time, who was an engineering major, to show him proof I had that something was happening. He had been rather skeptical, only believing that we believed something was happening and that we were scared. When I went to open the video, it played 2 minutes and the rest was gone. All of the video but the first 2 minutes were just gone. It showed us turning on the video, getting ready for bed, turning off the lights, my roommate rolling over and putting in her music, which she had apparently been doing since the beginning to block out noises, as the thing made noises in the corner when it moved. Me setting my alarm and rolling over to face the wall, and then nothing. I was very distraught, and in order to play it safe, my boyfriend came to my dorm room on open house night, which was conveniently that night, along with another of our engineering friends. They spent the entirety of the allotted time trying to replicate how the spray thing might have ended up on the other side of the room and also sitting perfectly in the center of my roommate's bed. They couldn't figure out how that would happen and insisted we must be missing something. This carried on for the entire semester, and we didn't tell anybody else about the strange happenings, but still, our friends felt uncomfortable when we left them alone in our room while hanging out. Finally, the semester ended, and we went home for the summer. The spray thing sat happily on my shelf in my bedroom at home with no problems, completely forgotten. I lived with my same roommate in the next semester, eager to see her after summer break, only to discover that she was not quite the same person after our experience in the freshman dorm. She did not sleep. I didn't notice at first, but after a couple of weeks, I picked up on the fact that she couldn't sleep. She looked tired and stressed, and perhaps sick. Her grandma finally convinced her to see a doctor who told us she was suffering from insomnia, which had been induced by the stress of college. We both knew why she couldn't sleep. What happened in that dorm during the semester ended our friendship. It changed her so completely that she was not the same person I had forged a friendship with at the beginning of our time in college. I always end this story with the conclusion that everything that happened could have all been in our heads, or that there could very well be a logical explanation for what happened, but I have yet to find it. We soon parted ways, but I was recently informed by a mutual friend that she still suffers from anxiety whenever it is dark. Hey there, hope you enjoyed these stories. If you can, please like and subscribe. I would appreciate it. See you next time.